The moon was dead and cold, but Jake walked across it like it was home. He was a scavenger, hunting old alien wrecks for anything he could sell. His oxygen pack beeped softly with every breath, a reminder that time was limited. He had seen broken ships before, but this one, half buried under silver dust, looked different. Its surface shimmered like glass, cracked open by something long ago. Jake climbed inside the main chamber, his boots crunching metal bones and shattered glass. Every step echoed in the silence, the only sound besides his breath. He shone his light over the walls, no control panels, no markings he understood, but something glowed deep inside, soft and golden. Like a heartbeat hidden in stone, Jake pushed aside a fallen beam, and there it was. A strange object, smooth, oval-shaped, and glowing gently like fire trapped in crystal. It looked like a lamp, but not one from Earth, as he reached out. The lamp pulsed brighter, as if it felt him coming closer. He touched it, and the light exploded in his helmet's visor. A rush of wind, though no wind should exist here, blew through the chamber. Jake stumbled back, and the lamp floated into the air, spinning slowly. His heart pounded. But he couldn't look away. Then she appeared. She stepped from the light like it was a doorway, tall, elegant, glowing skin like silver silk. Her hair floated behind her as if underwater, and her eyes bright violet locked onto him. Jake froze, not in fear, but in awe. She looked like something from a dream. Or a curse. "I am Zara," she said, her voice soft, yet powerful by the ancient codes. "You have awakened me." Jake blinked, then shook his head. "What are you?" She floated a few inches above the ground, her hands gently folded. Before her, "I am a wisher," she said, "born to grant 3 wishes to the one who frees me." Jake almost laughed. "You're telling me I get 3 wishes? Just like that?" Zara nodded slowly. "Yes, but choose wisely, for every wish comes with change." Jake looked down at the strange lamp still floating beside her. Then back at her face. There was sadness there, hidden beneath her beauty. He could have asked for anything. Riches, escape from this moon, even immortality. But instead, Jake's voice turned quiet. "My first wish." Zara leaned closer, waiting. He took a breath. "I wish you could choose your own fate." She froze, her glow flickering, her mouth slightly open. Her eyes filled with something Jake didn't expect. Tears. "No one has ever wished that," she whispered, trembling. Jake tilted his head. "Why not?" She looked down at her hands, glowing with power she never asked for. "Because everyone who finds me sees me as a tool." She said, "A thing to use, but you gave your first wish to me." The chamber shook suddenly, and a loud mechanical voice echoed through the walls. "Violation detected. Unauthorized wish command." Jake spun around. What the hell was that? Zara's face grew pale. "You broke the contract." He frowned. "I thought I was supposed to make wishes." "You did," she said, "but not like this. By wishing for my freedom, you triggered the defense system outside the ruined ship." Something rose from the ground, metal drones with red eyes. They hovered, scanning the wreck, their weapons charging. Zara's voice dropped to a whisper. "They're coming." To erase us both, Jake grabbed her arm. "Then we run." She looked at him, truly looked at him, as if seeing a human for the first time. "You would run with me, even now." Jake smirked. "I just wished for your freedom, remember?" With a single gesture, she turned the air around them into golden light. They vanished in a flash as the chamber exploded behind them. The wish had changed everything, and it was only the beginning. The golden light faded as Jake and Zara landed. Inside a dark cave, it was quiet, cold, and hidden under the surface of the moon. Zara's glow lit up the cave walls, casting soft light over the stone. She was breathing heavily, her body shaking. Jake noticed her skin flickering like a broken star. "Are you okay?" he asked, stepping closer. I don't know, she said softly. No one has ever made that wish before. Jake knelt beside her. But it was just a wish to give you freedom. She looked at him, eyes full of emotion. To you. Maybe it was simple, but to the system that created me, your wish is a threat. Zara explained everything as they sat together in the cave. Her kind were not born. They were built, created by an ancient race called the Vorathi. The Vorathi made genies, or wishers, to serve, to obey, and never ask. Every wish came from a contract locked by ancient energy, but Jake's wish didn't follow the rules. He wished from the heart, not from greed, and that changed everything, I feel. Strange, Zara whispered, like something inside me is waking up. Jake watched as her hands glowed brighter, not from magic, but from life. You're becoming real, he said, his voice quiet. Zara blinked, confused. What do you mean? Jake smiled a little. I mean, you're not a tool anymore. Suddenly, a loud beep echoed in the cave. Jake's scanner lit up. Multiple drones were closing in. They had tracked the energy burst from the wish. Zara stood quickly, her body still shaking, but her eyes sharp. They will not stop until I'm gone, she said, or until you are. Jake clenched his fists. I'm not letting you go. Zara placed a glowing hand on his chest. Then we must break the system. Jake raised an eyebrow. How do we do that? Zara looked down, her voice shaking. There's only one way. You must make a second wish, one that can hold my form, if I stay like this. The Creator's failsafe will erase me. Jake hesitated, but won't that hurt you? Zara nodded slowly. It may. I don't know what will happen, but if you don't, I will vanish. The cave shook again. Drones were entering from above. Time was running out. Jake looked into her eyes, bright and full of fear. Yet brave, he whispered. Then I wish you could live without fading. Zara gasped as golden lightning exploded around them. Her body lifted into the air, spinning, energy pulsing from her chest. The wish was fighting the system. Rewriting her code, her cries echoed in the cave. A sound like wind and sorrow. Jake could only watch, helpless. Then silence. Zara collapsed to the ground, smoke rising from her shoulders. Jake rushed to her. Zara. She opened her eyes slowly, and this time, she smiled. I feel warm, she said. For the first time, her skin no longer flickered. Her form no longer floated. She stood on her own. No lamp, no chains, no energy collar. She was free, but freedom came at a price. The air around them roared, and a voice thundered through the rocks. Living anomaly detected. Activate purge protocol. Jake's scanner blinked. Red missiles were incoming. The creators wanted to erase the mistake Jake had made. A free genie was a crime against their order. Zara looked around the cave. Then at Jake. We can't stay here, she said. We need to reach the old star station. Jake frowned. You mean the ruins in orbit? She nodded. It holds the last control key to the Creator's network. If we reach it, we can shut down the system hunting us. Jake helped her up. Then we fly. Outside, the drones were closing in, scanning every crevice. Jake and Zara made it to the surface, running across the dust field. His shuttle was hidden in the rocks, covered in tarps and camo screens. They jumped inside. Systems roaring to life. Zara touched the controls, her hands glowing softly. The ship responded instantly, launching into the stars as the moon faded. Behind them, Jake looked back one last time. It wasn't just a salvage mission anymore. He hadn't just found a lamp. He had changed a life, maybe a species, and now, the galaxy was watching. The shuttle shook as it broke through the thin atmosphere of the moon. Zara held the controls steady, her glowing fingers dancing across the alien screen. Jake sat beside her, gripping the seat. Watching the radar flash red, they were being Followed fast, silent, and deadly, 3 black drones zipped through space behind them. Their red eyes locked on the shuttle. They're gaining. Jake said, voice tight. Zara nodded. They were made to be perfect hunters. But they've never chased someone like me before. The shuttle rocked again as one of the drones fired a plasma shot. Zara pulled hard to the left, the shuttle spinning sideways to dodge. The stars outside became streaks of light. Inside, everything hummed with pressure and fear. Jake looked over at her, sweat on his face. Are you sure? The station can help us. Zara didn't answer for a moment, then said, it's the only place left where the creator stored override codes, if we reach it. I can try to disconnect myself from the system forever. Jake nodded, then glanced back at the drones. And if we don't? Zara's voice turned cold. Then I disappear, and you die. They sped past a broken asteroid field, ducking between massive rocks. Jake fired the rear cannon, but it only slowed one drone. The others stayed close to close. Zara's eyes glowed brighter, and she whispered something ancient. A pulse of golden energy shot from her hands into the shuttle's core. The ship moved faster, almost alive, dodging the rocks like a bird in flight. Jake's jaw dropped. What did you do? Zara smiled slightly. I told the ship to trust me. Jake blinked. Ships can do that. She chuckled softly. Everything can, if it's built with care. The station finally came into view, an old star-shaped structure, half broken and orbiting a dead planet. It had once belonged to the Vorathi, now lost in time. The docking bay was barely functional, lit by flickering blue lights. Zara guided the shuttle toward it. But the drones were right behind. Jake fired again, hitting one drone in the engine. It spun out and exploded, the shockwave rocking their ship. The other 2 pulled back slightly, but not for long. They're learning, Zara said quietly. Adapting to our moves. Jake gritted his teeth. Then we better move fast. They docked roughly, metal screeching as the shuttle locked into place. Jake grabbed a plasma pistol and followed Zara through the docking tunnel. The inside of the station was cold and dark, lights barely working. Old signs and alien symbols lined the walls, some glowing, some cracked. Zara moved fast, as if she had been here before. This was a Wisher nursery, she said, where we were trained to obey. Jake looked around. It feels empty, Zara whispered. It feels like a grave. They reached a large circular chamber with a tall glowing pillar in the center. This is the command node, she said. From here, I can try to remove myself from their network. Jake stepped back, keeping his gun ready the moment Zara placed her hand on the pillar. The whole station trembled. Lights burst to life, and a cold mechanical voice filled the air. Unauthorized entity detected. Purge in progress. Red beams shot from the ceiling, targeting Zara's body. Jake fired at the emitters, breaking 2 before they could strike her. Zara screamed as energy wrapped around her, trying to pull her apart. She pushed back with her own power gold against red, heart against code. Jake ran to her side, shouting, "Can I help?" Zara gritted her teeth. "Yes, you can believe in me." Jake stared into her glowing eyes and nodded. "I do," he said, "more than anything." The lights flickered, then exploded. The pillar turned white, then gold, then clear. Zara collapsed into Jake's arms, her body weak but whole. The connection had broken, but the damage was deep. Suddenly, the sound of metal footsteps echoed through the hallway. Jake raised his pistol, heart racing. 2 drones had entered the station. Weapons aimed, red lights pulsing. Zara lifted her head slowly. "Jake, help me stand." He helped her up, her legs shaking. She raised one hand, her energy crackling like fire. The drones fired first, but their beams bounced off her new shield. She stepped forward and unleashed a pulse of light. The drones stopped, twitched, then fell. Jake stared, stunned. You did that? Zara turned to him, breathing hard. I'm not a slave anymore. I'm something new. She touched his hand, her smile soft. Thanks to you, the system was breaking. The code unraveling, but their fight was far from over. More drones were coming, more danger ahead. But for the first time, Zara was no longer just running. She was ready to fight back. The star station was falling apart. Sparks rained down from the ceiling as power cables burst one by one. Zara leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Jake stood beside her, his plasma pistol still warm in his hand. 2 more drones lay in pieces behind them, but they both knew more were coming. We can't stay here, Jake said, scanning for more. A way out. Zara nodded slowly, but her face was pale, her glow dimmer than before. Jake looked at her with worry. You're fading again? She shook her head. I'm not fading. I'm changing. My body wasn't made to survive without the system. Jake clenched his fists. Then I'll make another wish. Zara turned to him sharply. No, she said. You already used one to free me. If you keep using your wishes for me, there will be nothing left for you. Jake smiled softly. Maybe you are what I want. A moment passed, full of silence and tension. Then Zara looked away, whispering, if you really care. Don't waste a second wish, but her body trembled again. A golden crack forming across her arm like glass breaking. Jake couldn't watch her fall apart. He stepped forward and said firmly, I wish you could live without fading. A golden wave exploded from her chest. She gasped as her whole body lit up like a star. The light was blinding, filling the broken chamber like a rising sun. Jake covered his face, his heart pounding. Zara floated off the ground, spinning in place as the wish reshaped her. The system tried to reject each red lines of code, burst through the air like lightning. But Jake's wish was too strong, too human, too real. It came from love, not desire, and the system didn't understand it. Zara screamed, but not in pain this time. It was like she was being reborn. The lights shattered, and the floor cracked beneath them. Then silence. Zara slowly dropped to the ground, her feet touching the metal floor. She stood tall, breathing, glowing, but now in a calm, soft light. Jake stepped closer. Are you okay? She smiled, tears in her eyes. I'm more than okay, for the first time. I feel real. Her hands no longer shimmered like glass. Her voice didn't echo like a machine anymore. She was solid, alive, and free. But the system had noticed, far above the station, a giant black structure awakened a command ship of the creators, cold, silent, watching. The voice of the system echoed again, louder and clearer. Anomaly has evolved, prepared full planetary purge. Jake stared up through the cracked dome of the station. What does that mean? Zara looked up too, her smile fading. It means they're going to erase everything. The creators feared what she had become, a wisher who could live, think, and feel. And now, she was spreading that freedom just by existing. The creators saw her as a virus, something that must be deleted. Jake grabbed her hand. We need a plan. Zara nodded. There's only one chance. There's a control beacon on the creator's command ship. If we reach it, I might be able to broadcast a reset. Jake raised an eyebrow. A reset? Zara looked into his eyes, a chance to free every wisher ever made. Jake stared at her in shock. All of them. Zara nodded slowly. If we succeed, they'll all wake up, like I did. But if we fail, the system will erase us and them forever. Jake smiled. Then we don't fail. They rushed back to the shuttle, which was still docked and waiting as they lifted off. More drones swarmed toward the station, missiles launched from the command ship far above. The sky lit up with fire. Zara sat in the co-pilot seat, her eyes glowing bright again. She reached, into the ship's systems with her new energy. The shuttle responded faster than ever, stronger, sharper, alive. Jake piloted them straight into the path of danger. "I can feel them watching us," Zara said, voice calm but cold. "They want to see if I'll break again?" Jake looked at her. "Will you?" Zara turned to him, and her expression was like steel. "No," she said. "I've already died once. This time, I fight," as the stars rushed by outside. And the shadow of the Creator ship grew larger. Jake felt a strange calm settle. Inside him, he wasn't just flying through space anymore. He was flying toward a war for her soul, and maybe for the souls of countless others. This was no longer about wishes. It was about choice, about freedom, and it all started with one human wish. The command ship of the Creators hung like a giant shadow in space, dark, silent, and full of cold purpose. It had no windows, no lights, no signs of life, just perfect black metal floating above the stars. But inside, it held the power to erase millions. And now, Jake and Zara were flying straight toward it. The shuttle shook under the force of their speed. Alarms blinked on the control panel, warning of missiles, enemy drones, and system locks. Zara didn't blink. Her hands were steady on the console, and her glow had changed. It wasn't just light anymore, it was will. "They're trying to block us," she said, voice firm. "They've activated the old firewalls, locking down the access codes." Jake checked the radar, and they've sent out another wave of drones. Zara closed her eyes, focusing. "I can get us through," she whispered. "I know the pattern now." She placed her hand on the main interface. Gold lines of light spread through the ship's systems, like roots through soil. The shuttle pulsed one sand. Everything changed. The controls responded like a living creature. Dodging missiles with perfect timing, Zara was no longer flying the ship, she was part of it. They dove under the belly of the command ship, heading for a small docking port hidden beneath the hull. Jake glanced at her. "How do you know this place?" Zara's voice turned quiet. "Because I was made here. This was my cradle." And my cage. The shuttle landed with a soft hiss. Zara stood first, her face unreadable. Jake followed. Pistol ready, the docking bay opened into a wide corridor, cold, metallic, and lined with silent watchers, black statues of the Creator. Race stared down at them, eyes carved from obsidian. Zara walked ahead slowly, not with fear, but with memory. She touched one of the statues, and the air trembled. "I remember this hallway," she said. "They brought us here in silence. We were told to kneel." Before we could speak, Jake looked around, anger rising in his chest. "All of this, just to make slaves," Zara nodded. "But not anymore. Today, I speak." They reached a giant door at the end of the hall. It was covered in strange, glowing symbols, words in the language of the Creators. Zara placed her hand on the center. The door didn't open. Instead, it asked a question. A voice echoed in their minds. "Do you serve, or do you choose?" Zara didn't hesitate. She said clearly, "I choose." The door cracked down the middle, then slowly opened with a deep groan. Inside was the heart of the ship, the control nexus. A floating crystal orb the size of a small planet hovered. In the center, it pulsed red with warning, as if alive and angry. Wires and glowing chains wrapped around it, holding it in place. Dozens of wisher lamps were suspended around it, frozen, waiting, powerless. Jake stepped forward, his voice soft. "Are those others like you?" Zara's hand trembled. "Yes, they're still trapped. But if I link to the nexus, I can wake them." Jake looked at her. "Will it hurt you?" Zara nodded. "Yes." Jake clenched his fists. "Then let me help." Zara smiled gently. "You already have." She walked toward the nexus, each step making the chains shake. As she touched it, her body lifted into the air. Energy poured into her, trying to burn her away. She screamed, but didn't stop. Jake watched in horror, wanting to run to her. But knowing he couldn't, he saw her light begin to spread first. To the closest lamps, then the next. One by one, the other lamps started to glow. Zara's voice echoed through the chamber. I give you what I was given. A choice. The red lights turned gold. The chains snapped. The nexus changed, no longer angry, but alive. The wishers began to open their eyes, some confused. Some crying, some smiling. Zara dropped from the air. Landing hard, Jake rushed to her side, catching her before she hit the ground. Zara, can you hear me? She opened her eyes slowly, weak, but alive. They're free, she whispered. We did it, behind them. The chamber filled with soft light. The freed wishers looked at Zara with wonder. One stepped forward, bowing her head. You were the first to break the code, she said. You are our beginning. Zara tried to speak, but her voice cracked. Jake held her closer. Rest now, he said. You've earned it, but deep inside, he knew it wasn't over yet. The creators still had weapons, still had rules, and soon they would respond. But now, Zara had an army, not of warriors, but of those who had once been slaves and now had the power to choose. Asterisk, the control room glowed gold with freedom. One by one, the suspended wisher lamps shattered. Alien women, each glowing and unique, stepped out into the open for the first time in their lives. Some looked around in fear, others in awe. All of them turned to Zarath, the first to break her chains. Jake helped her sit against a pillar, her skin dim and her breathing slow. She had given everything to wake the others. Her light was flickering again, and he could see it. She was fading. No, Jake whispered, holding her hand tight. You can't go now. Zara looked up at him, her smile tired but kind. I was built with a limit, she said softly, and I've reached it. One of the newly freed wishers stepped forward. She had sharp eyes and glowing blue skin. We are free because of her, she said. But if she dies now, then freedom begins with death. Jake stood, anger rising in his chest. There has to be a way, he said. The system broke once, maybe it can be broken again. Zara shook her head gently. No system lasts forever, Jake. But I do not have time left. Jake's heart pounded. He looked at Hurley. Sia changed everything. She had risked her life for others, and all he had done was make 2 wishes. Then the answer hit. He still had 1 wish left. He knelt beside her, placing a hand on her cheek. I have 1 more, he whispered. And I won't waste it. Zara's eyes widened. No. Jake, if you use it wrong, it could erase me. Jake shook his head. I don't want to save your body. I want to save your truth. He took a deep breath and said the words, I wish you were never created to serve anyone. A deep silence fell across the chamber. Even the other wishers stopped moving. The golden lights dimmed to pure white. The nexus began to hum again, not with anger, but with change. Reality itself shook as the wish echoed across time. The chains of Zara's birth began to unwrite themselves. Her history rewrote itself line by line. Cell by cell, she gasped. Not in pain, but in confusion, the memories of her past were vanishing. There were no more cages, no more commands, no lamp, no slavery, no system. She was becoming something new. Jake's vision blurred as golden light wrapped around them both. He could feel her changing in his arms, and then she vanished. All that remained was the soft hum of the nexus and a single crystal on the floor. Jake picked it up with shaking hands. The wishers around him bowed their heads in silence. She's gone, Jake whispered. No, said the blue-skinned wisher, stepping forward again. She's become the seed. Jake frowned. What do you mean? She is not gone, the wisher said. Your wish changed her past. She was never created to serve, which means she now exists In a different way, the crystal in Jake's hand pulsed once. It was warm, alive, and glowing. With soft gold, a voice echoed inside his mind, not loud, but loving. You gave me a beginning. Not an end. Suddenly, the chamber shook again, this time, not from inside. The command ship's outer sensors had detected the nexus change. The creators were responding. Their ship powered up its Corv, their final weapon, the eraser beam. A pulse meant to delete anything outside their design. The Wishers turned to Jake. Waiting, they had power now, but no leader. Jake looked at them, then at the crystal in his hand. He wasn't a soldier or a commander, but he was the only one who had made a wish for someone else. She gave you freedom, Jake said to them, and now we fight not just for her, but for what she became. He raised the crystal high. Light shot out from it, bright, blinding, full of energy. The Wishers stood around him, lifting their hands. Together, they focused that light. It rose through the roof of the control room into space, straight toward the command ship above. The creators fired their eraser beam, but the light of choice of freedom, of Zara's new beginning, met it halfway. There was no sound, no explosion. Just pure white light as two opposite forces collided. When it cleared, the creator's ship was gone, not broken east. The Wishers stood still, quiet. Then slowly, they smiled. Jake looked down at the crystal. It was glowing brighter than ever, and then a figure began to form. Not the same Zara as before, but someone new. She looked like her, but younger, freer. Her eyes opened, and she looked at Jake, smiling softly. I remember everything, she said. But now, choose what I become. Jake reached out his hand, and she took it. Not as a genie, not as a servant, but as an equal. The battle was over. The creator's ship was gone, erased by a wave of light born from freedom. The Nexus chamber was quiet. The other Wishers stood in silence, unsure what to do next. They were free, but they had never known life without orders. Jake looked around at the glowing faces, some filled with hope, others with fear, and then his eyes returned to her. The girl who stood where Zara once had, she looked younger, almost human. Her hair like golden fire, her eyes soft and deep. She held the crystal that once held her soul, now resting against her chest like a heart reborn. Are you still, Zara? Jake asked carefully. The girl tilted her head, then gave a small smile. I remember, Zara, she said. I remember you, but I am not what I was. You changed the moment I was born, from love, not command. Jake's throat tightened. She walked toward him slowly, her bare feet touching the metal floor softly. The Wishers stepped aside, watching her like a goddess. Jake met her halfway, and for a moment, the galaxy disappeared. What do I call you now? He asked, voice low. She placed her hand over his. You may still call me Zara, she said. But this time, it's my name, not theirs. The other Wishers began to whisper. One of them stepped forward, tall, silver-haired, her voice strong. What do we do now? She asked. We were made to serve now. We serve no one. Zara turned to face them, her glow warming the cold air. You were made in cages, she said. But now you choose what your future is. We do not need a master. We need to learn how to live. Some nodded. Others looked uncertain. Jake stepped forward too, his voice carrying across the room. I can teach what I know, he said, and I know how to survive. How to build. How to lead with kindness. I'm just human, he added. But maybe that's enough, Zara smiled at him with quiet pride. And you're not alone, she said. You taught me more with one wish than the creators did with 1,000 orders. Suddenly, a signal echoed through the room. A nearby console flickered to life, showing a map of nearby systems. Zara walked to it, eyes narrowing. Emergency signals, she said. From other stars, places where Wishers are still trapped. Locked in lamps, waiting to be found, Jake stepped beside her, his voice turning serious. Then, our job isn't finished. We've freed this place, but there are more still chained. Zara nodded slowly. Yes, we have to go to them. The Wishers looked at each other, then at her. They understood they were no longer victims, they were now messengers of choice. Warriors of peace, born from rebellion, carrying light into dark places. Zara turned to Jake again, her voice gentle but strong. Will you come with me? Jake didn't hesitate. Always, they left the control room together, walking back to the shuttle that had carried them through fire. But now, it wasn't just a ship, it was a beacon. Behind them, the Nexus shimmered, and the newly freed Wishers prepared to spread out across the galaxy. Each would become a light in a different world. As the shuttle launched, Zara sat beside Jake, her hand in his. The stars stretched out in front of them, endless and full of unknown stories. Jake looked over at her, smiling. Do you think they'll understand us out there? Zara smiled back. They don't need to. They only need to see us, to see that freedom is real. The stars glowed around them like fireflies, and Jake realized something deep in his chest. He hadn't just made a wish, he had changed a universe, and maybe it had changed him too. They flew into the stars, not as master and servant, not as genie and wisher, but as equals, as partners, as the first spark of a new future where no one would ever be born in chains again.